Greetings. This is Elder Blacklight. Now, what I'm about to show you shouldn't be no surprise, because ever since America was founded, it was founded by corruption, gangsters, cowboys, and outlaws. So I was telling you about this in my earlier videos about the Jews and the Italians. They talk about it in The Godfather. They tell you the connection with Hollywood, the connection in the music business, connections in every realm of life or aspect of the United States that there is. The United Snakes. Check it out.
He pulled me aside and he said, "Maria, look at this. You see all this?" And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "This room, all these decorators coming and going and all this stuff being, all this artwork and this beautiful furniture. You see it all?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I got it for $1." And this is the first time I heard the name Les Wexner. He said, "Wexner gave it all to me. He'll do anything for me." When I called the FBI, I'm going to tell you what I told them. I said, "I know this is strange, but," I said, "I have a report to make on someone that I've been working for that recently kidnapped me." And they said, who are you talking about? And I said, "Okay, well, his name is Jeffrey Epstein." And I said, "And her name is Ghislaine Maxwell." And I said, "But here's what's important. It also involves the Clinton family. It involves Bill Clinton for sure. It involves Donald Trump." And I said, "But the most important one," and I said that he's the head of the snake, is Les Wexner. And they said, "What do you think he is?" And I said, "He's Jewish mafia." And they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "What do you mean, what do I mean?" Yeah, I said, "What do you mean, what do I mean?" I said, "He's not Italian. He's Jewish, and he's mafia." I said, "I can't be any clearer with you." And they said, "How do you know he's Jewish mafia?" And then I went on to list everything that I'd seen. It was just so creepy.
Could you
and how
tell me what you told them about why you thought Wexner was the Jewish mob? Because that anything you can tell me there helps me build my case. I don't know if you read my background of Wexner in part 3 of my series or remember it, but there's definitely a lot of evidence pointing to him. Right. So there was this police report filed in, I think it was Columbus, about the murder of his tax attorney. And the police report was destroyed, but there was a copy of it that ended up resurfacing 15 years later after it was supposed to be destroyed, that linked him pretty much directly to the National Crime Syndicate, which is the Jewish and Italian mafia is working together. But in the 1980s, there were these series of lawsuits and arrests made. Rudy Giuliani was actually a big part in that. It was like the pizza something, I can't remember, but they basically, the Jewish mob in New York took out the Italian mafia they'd been working with all those years and consolidated and basically just took over the whole thing. So anyway, Wexner has ties to those guys. So, but anything you can give me about what you saw that made you think, so, I mean, there's clear ties from that, right? But beyond that, anything you can tell me about what you saw, why you thought it was organized crime and not like intelligence, things like that. So anything there is helpful. Right.
So one of the things that made me think it was all the passports. I know for a fact Epstein had an Israeli passport because he showed me, okay? But Epstein and I'll tell you about the Wexner, like why I think he's mafia, but I just want to say too why
Okay, sure.
I thought it was really sketchy that they had, like, how Guylaine had all those passports. He had a passport, a French passport, an English passport, an Israeli passport, an American passport, and there was one other. And then it made me really mad that when the FBI raided the safe, I know what was in that safe. And it's not a regular safe, it's a whole room, just so you know. So when people say a safe, they think, oh, it's the safe. It's Wexner had one too. It's a whole room you walk in. And in that safe, he had a lot of photographs of children, and I know for fact pictures of my sisters are in there, because one of the people from his freaking office had told me they were in his briefcase, and he kept his briefcase in that safe. He also kept everything in there, because he told me he kept it for Wexner, everything. And when I asked why they recorded everything all the time, I said, is Wexner really paranoid? And he said, yeah, Epstein said, yeah, that's one way of saying it. He keeps everything. He records it all. He said, I record everything, and I keep it for Wexner in the safe. So, the first house I go to has pinhole cameras. Jeffrey's showing me. He's really proud of them. Second house I go to has pinhole cameras. He says, Wexner gave me this house for $1. Wexner gave me this for $1. Then I go to the apartment. They had pinhole cameras in the Victoria's Secret dressing room. And just to fast forward, when I was in Wexner's house, there were cameras there were pinhole cameras throughout that thing. And Jeffrey again is like, oh, look at all the pinhole cameras. And Guylaine says, you need to be careful. We can see everything. When I would go to the restroom or take a shower or anything, Guylaine would call me, and from the speaker, and this is in New York, sometimes in London, in different places, she would say, get out of the loo, get off the toilet. She would start screaming at me. And I was on the toilet. And I'm like, what's happening? So then later Jeffrey's like, oh yeah, everything's being fed to Abigail. They're watching everything. They literally watch my every move, Whitney. Who does that? My point is, who has cameras everywhere? Sharpshooters, Doberman, mafia. That's why I said mafia. I'm like, I don't know anyone who lives like this. There were little pinhole cameras in that first mansion that Annie met Jeffrey in, and in the second mansion that he gave Jeffrey for $1. They were in the building that his brother owned on 66th Street. There were pinhole cameras in all these buildings that Wexner, yes, okay, all the buildings that Wexner had owned. Well, oh, here's where they were in the building that Wexner owned. They were in the Victoria's Secret stalls. Even though I had this driver's license, and Jeffrey had given me his SUV to use while I was there, but I couldn't go outside because, Whitney, there were sharpshooters, and no one discusses this. Actual freaking sharpshooters everywhere. And anyway, the weirdest part about being at Wexner's was it wasn't the basement, because they had a basement. It was like below that, and there was a sauna in that room, like a huge sauna, and then they had like a vault, and then they had a door to an underground tunnel. And the only way I knew it was an underground tunnel was because their maid told me. I said, what is this door? Because I used to keep everything down there. And she said, oh, that's the tunnel that leads to the main house. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why would they do that? And she said, oh, you don't know? And I said, no. And she said, there's a giant 10,000 square foot floor that raises up when someone goes through that tunnel. And then they can enter the room secretly in, and then no one ever sees them. The floor raises up. She said 10,000 square feet. I mean, here's the thing. I lived there for 3 months, and I never once saw him. I saw Abigail on her horses. He'd go out to get her horses. I could just see her and go out, but I never once saw him. And that's why I called him, like, the Wizard of Oz, because he was controlling everything, but no one ever saw the guy. Okay?
He who controls the gold, he who controls the gold makes the golden rule. The golden rule is he who controls the gold rules. The Army, the Navy, the FBI, all the politicians, some of them know it, some of them don't know it. All are security guards for those that have, or those that are in control and want to be in control of all the resources, including human resources. You see? So these people know that they are not natural to the planet. They know that they are mankind because they got all our books, all our knowledge over in the Vatican, down in the basement that stretches miles and miles. It's 5, 10, 15, down underground, you know. So what I'm telling you, you know, it can't be, you gotta have solid evidence before some of y'all believe it. But you ones that, you know, can reason, you know, y'all can be, y'all got sense, mother wit, common sense. Common sense ain't so common no more, but some of you got it. This is Black Light, to be continued.